What's up guys, Asian here again with another Vet Trials guide video. Today we're going to be going over Nahviintaas hard mode in the trial Sunspire. So this is from a tank perspective. I do have perspective of the downstairs mechanic for those of you guys who are a little bit concerned about not showing the portal mechanic. Unfortunately, I am not DPS Nahviintaas hard mode yet, so this will just be kind of a non-hard mode downstairs mechanic, but all the mechanics remain pretty much the same on non-hard mode as they do on hard mode. The downstairs mechanic just has a couple of things that have changed around. So this is the final boss of Sunspire, the third and final boss, and it is actually a fairly difficult boss. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the hardest fight in the game, but it's definitely up there, tied with the Silent hard mode and Cloud Rest hard mode as one of the tougher fights in the game, especially if you're just sort of progressing. But once you know the flow of the fight, it actually isn't that bad. So again, this is from a tank perspective, so there might be a couple of mechanics that I will not necessarily be able to show you on screen just because it is from the eyes of a tank. So we're just going to go ahead and get started here first. So right now you will see that we do have 4 ads that we need to kill first. So this is at the very beginning of the fight. There's basically going to be 4 ad phases. First one is right off the bat. You have these 4 ads. And then you have one at 80%, 60%, and 40%. So at 80, 60, and 40, he will fly into the air and basically do some things around the arena, and he'll have ads that spawn. So at the 80% spawn, you still get these 4 exact same ads in the exact same pattern. They will always spawn in the exact same place. At 60 and 40, there will be 2 other ads, one additional Fury of Alkosh and one additional Alkosh's Fate. So you'll have 6 ads at the 60 and 40% ad phase, which I'll go over when we go into those ad phases. So starting off here, you do have these 4 ads, and they'll always spawn in the exact same place. You'll always have the Fury in the back right, the Ruin in the front right. You have the Fury, actually no, that's not Fury, the Will on the front left, and then you have the Fate on the far left. And what you're going to be doing is, typically speaking, tanks will split it up evenly. So one tank will get the right side, the other tank will get the left side, and you'll all stack things onto the Fate that's on the left. At the 60 and 40% ad phases, there'll be one additional Fate that spawns kind of out over here, and there'll be one additional Fury. That's the sort of zombie, no weapons. Khajiit will also spawn over here. You still split left, right, and you still try to stack all the melee ads onto this Fate here. The tank that has the right ads will not be taunting this Fate, and we'll be going over them once we hit the 60 and 40% mark on this particular fight, this pull, I should say. Like I said, we are all just going to stack all of the melee ads right on top of this Fate, and once it's all stacked, if you have any Necromancers, they should be using their Atronach ulti here for the major vulnerability to just obviously make this ad phase go by a lot faster. Now you'll see here that he did throw down a shout, so Nahviintaas during this ad phase will occasionally shout a time stop on one of the ads that are still alive. Basically, as the time stop grows and grows and grows, it will heal whatever ads are in the time stop itself and enrage them. So it heals 50% of their health and enrages them, and this happens both on non-hard mode and hard mode. So if it targets a Fate, they're pretty much going to get enraged. If it targets a melee ad, you can still pull the melee ads out of this time stop to avoid the enrage and avoid the heal. That being said, the enraged ads themselves actually aren't that bad if there's only one enraged ad. So if you have one enraged Fate, it's not a big deal. But if you have multiple enraged, particularly the two-hander and the Fury, that becomes a little bit tricky, especially for the tanks that they have to deal with both the swipe as well as, well, the Fury. So if you have 3 or more of the melee ads that are enraged, you should definitely be a little bit cautious, because at that point, they hit pretty dang hard. Now moving on here, there are going to be 4 statues around the arena here. Now on hard mode, these will turn into ads which you have to face, but on non-hard mode, they basically disappear after each of the following Fire Blast phases. Throughout the fight, you will have these Flame Atronachs that spawn. So here you go, you see the 4 statues, there's going to be 2 on each side here. Now during this is Firestorm, you just have a bunch of AoEs that spawn, 3 Flame Atronachs will spawn out, just like you see here from the little flame circles there. At this point, you do need to hide behind one of the statues. The last statue to disappear is always going to be the front right statue, so most groups will be hiding behind that front right statue, the one that you see here. You do need to be hidden behind the statue, otherwise you will get hit by this blast that goes out and killed, just like our healer just happened to get healed right there. So you do need to be right behind the statue itself in order to avoid getting that killed by that one shot. You can survive it with Magma Shell. We have tested that out, not intentionally, but you can survive it with Magma Shell, but other than that, it is a one shot. Now you see there that the statue over on the far left did turn into an ad. This is only on hard mode. On non-hard mode, it just simply crumbles away. Now, there are a few strategies to deal with this statue where I'm going to be showing you the quote progression or safe strategy to use when we're dealing with the statue. The statue itself is actually invulnerable. You can't actually damage it, and it does move fairly slowly. So first we'll kind of go over what Nahviintaas does. So Nahviintaas has a few moves here. I don't think we're going to be seeing all of them right now. But we'll skip ahead around a little bit so you guys can get an idea of what's going on. So obviously he has a heavy attack, he has a searing breath, a lot like Yolnakreen, a very clear telegraph. So when he rears his head back, that's when you know he's going to do his fire breath here. He will continue to sum Flame Atronachs out. When he rears his head back and doesn't actually charge up fire in his mouth, that is when he is basically going to be doing his Marked for Death. So Marked for Death basically shatters your armor, so completely reduces your armor. It's exactly like getting shattered in VMA. Plus, it also applies a dot on you. It lasts for about 15 seconds or so, and you on hard mode, the dot actually hurts quite a bit. On non-hard mode, it still hurts, but it's not quite as bad as it is on hard mode. So for Marked for Death, there's basically two options. First option is to basically tank swap. So basically tanks just swap taunt on Nahviintaas. Not that big of a deal. In the second option, which is a little bit more dangerous, is to just use Magma Shell and just power through it with Magma Shell. Because Magma Shell just reduces all damage up to a max of 3%, so as long as you're getting some heals from a healer, you should be able to survive an entire Marked for Death with Magma Shell. It does last 15 seconds, so you will need to be able to last for 3 seconds, but you can just dodge roll his various moves. Now there are going to be a few other moves to watch out for from Nahviintaas here, which might happen. There will be at least one that happens right now. So he does have a sweeping breath. That's a little bit weird. Oh, this is the bug sweeping breath here. So we're actually need to skip ahead a little bit here. I'm gonna skip ahead. So that was one move right there, Thrash. So basically he's gonna kind of rear his head to his side and then sort of like swing his head around and hit everybody. If you're a little bit farther away from a Nahviintaas, it won't actually hit you, but within melee range, basically within range of where his head's going to be sweeping, you will get hit. You can either block or dodge roll it. Most people recommend dodge rolling it, not blocking it, because even if you block it, it will stagger you. If you don't block it, then or dodge it, you will get knocked back. The blocking it will just stagger you, and obviously dodge rolling, you completely avoid the damage entirely. Let's see if we can go to this next move here. We do need, so that's Sweeping Breath, so that is the other move. It's basically the exact same thing as Thrash, except instead of swinging his head around, he breathes fire around instead. So he starts on one side of the arena, either to the left or the right, and just sweeps his breath around. Just like with Thrash, you can either block it or dodge roll it, and it does have a little bit of unique aspect behind it in the fact that if it starts on the left and is sweeping towards the right, it'll deal more damage the longer the arc is. So if you get hit by it right when he starts it, it deals less damage compared to if you get hit by it when he finishes his breath. So a lot of people will recommend dodge rolling and sweeping breath rather than just straight up blocking it. It does take a little bit of practice to get used to the telegraph, but just remember that when you dodge roll, you do have 1 second of immunity after you finish the animation, so you can time it out that way. The next move that Nahviintaas does, we do have to skip ahead because he will not do it until after the first ad phase. So after 80% here, so we do need to skip ahead here. Here we go. He should be doing it soon. So again, he only does it after the first phase here. So at some point here, he's going to do it. So this is Marked for Death. Let's see if he does it here. So the other moves, that's Thrash. You can see here I didn't block it, so I got knocked back. So let's see here whether he does it. No, not quite yet. So I'll just talk about it and we'll see whether or not it pops up. So basically the next move that he does is something called Soul Tear. It basically applies a little bit of a dot and its healing absorption on you. So let's see if he applies it here. So there we go. So that is the Soul Tear. So he basically kind of rears his head back, does a shout, and there's a big blast of energy that comes out. And you'll see here that I am glowing purple, and that is the healing absorption. So basically what happens is it applies a certain amount of healing absorption on you. So any heals that is applied to you actually won't heal you. It'll go through that healing absorption instead. Think of it as a reverse damage shield. Instead of absorbing damage, it absorbs heals instead. While it is on you, you do have a dot that's placed on you. So when Soul Tear goes out, the healers do need to heal through that healing absorption shield, that reverse damage shield, before the dot is removed. So that is all of Nahviintaas' moveset up until execute, and we'll go over execute at a later point in this video. First, I do want to talk about the statue itself. So we're going to go ahead and back up to when the first statue spawned, or maybe when the second statue spawned. Okay, so a little bit more. Where am I at? Okay, so the statue has spawned. This is the second statue. So the statues will spawn back left, back right, front left, front right. So that is always going to be the order in which the statues either spawn on hard mode or crumble away on non-hard mode. So right now, the statue on the back right has kind of moved over here. Now, generally speaking, you're going to want to bring the statues out towards the edge of the arena like we have here, as you'll see once we swap here. So you can see that's generally where you want to bring them, either back here to the back right or over on the other side here. Really depends on whichever side your raid wants to go for. Again, the statue is invulnerable until it starts doing this channeling move right here, where it's sort of waving its hand around and throwing rocks out. At this point, he becomes vulnerable to damage. And so you basically just want to try to kill it. Now, that being said, he is throwing rocks out at everybody while this is happening, and the longer he's channeling this move, the more damage those rocks are going to do. So a safe way to do this would be to basically do it in 2 goes. You basically interrupt him after a certain period of time, so that way you don't kill, that way not enough people really die, and then you just wait for him to do this channel again, and so you kill him that second time. So that's the strategy that we're doing, and while we're doing this, everybody is standing back here, so that way they don't get hit by the thrash. The only thing they have to worry about would be the sweeping breath move that is done, as well as the Soul Tear. Now, the statue does have 2 moves. The first one you just saw there is this giant slam move. It will knock you back a fair bit, and he'll always do it right in front of wherever the tank is going. Just want to make sure you're obviously not standing in the DPS stack when that happens. The other move is basically just throws a rock at the tank, and if you don't block it, then you get knocked down. Pretty easy, and you can see here, while he has those sort of obsidian shields around him, he's invulnerable. And so when he starts channeling, that's when you can damage him. And so the safe strategy is to let him do 2 channels, interrupt that first channel, so that way nobody dies, and then kill him in the second channel. That is definitely very slow. This particular pull, I think, took about 15.5 minutes in order to fully complete. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing this strategy, it is going to end up being quite slow, but it is fairly safe overall. When he starts to channel, if you have necromancers, they use their Atronac ultis. Obviously, supports will use their warhorns in order to try to burn as much health as you can. We have been able to burn it down in 1 go, but it was a little bit risky and it was not very consistent for us, so that's why we decided to go with the safer strategy, which is interrupt first and just do it in 2 goes. Now, moving on, we're going to be talking about the portal mechanic now. So the portal mechanics happen at 90, 70, and 50% health. So at those different marks, you'll have to do the portal phase. So let me just pull this over here. So this is the DPS perspective on non-hard mode. So mechanics are pretty much exactly the same on non-hard mode as they are in hard mode, except on hard mode, the Eternal Servant has 3 times as much health. So it has about 12 million health rather than the about 3 million that we see here on non-hard mode. Let's go ahead and play here. So you can see we hit about 90% health. And so he basically is going to rear his head up like that, and he's going to summon 3 portals. Only 1 person can go through each of the portals. They'll be on the left, the right, and the center back. So basically just have to synergize with it and play the video. So you can see you can go down, and you're going to have to face off against the Eternal Servant. So he has a couple of moves. First one is that move there. It's basically a giant lightning pool that is also a negate. So make sure you don't lay that on top of the Eternal Servant. If you have any melee DPS that are downstairs, just make sure to dodge roll it. Second move is that sweeping move. It will follow you around, so you can either block or dodge roll it. Dodge rolling is a lot better, and if you're going to dodge roll it, dodge roll towards the Eternal Servant, so that way you're not dodge rolling into one of your friends. So you can only have 3 people down here because each portal will only accept 1 person at a time. Now you will see that there is a green circle here in that negate, and that actually comes from the time stops that happen upstairs. So while the portal phase is active, there will be time stops that happen throughout the upstairs where the dragon is. If somebody happens to be caught in that time stop, they will drop down this sort of time boost, so to speak, in the downstairs group. Pick up that, if you pick up that glowing ball, you get some resources back, magicka, stamina, and you get a boost to your weapon and spell damage. It just helps you kill the Eternal Servant a little bit faster here. So you can see here he has about 3 million health, 3.5 million health on non-hard mode. On hard mode, he will have 12 million health. So the DPS threshold is, because you only have 3 DPS and you have 90 seconds to complete this phase, is about 42k DPS. So you need to have very good DPS if you're going to do hard mode Nahviintaas here. At the very least, the portal DPS need to have good DPS. So you do have 90 seconds in order to complete this phase, and I'll go over how that works out in just a second here.
Oh, that buff is in the negate field. Why?
So you can see here he starts doing a channel, and it is an interruptible channel, and you have to make sure to interrupt it. If you don't interrupt it, he teleports upstairs. He's invincible while he's upstairs, and you wipe the group. So the first time he does it, nothing really happens. If you're too close to him, when he does that little AoE, you get blasted back and you're stunned. You can't CC break out of that stun. The second time that he does this, it's going to be at 30 seconds. So the first one happens fairly quickly at around 15 seconds when you're downstairs. The next one happens at 30 seconds. When the 30-second one happens, let's see if actually we get the second one. The next move over here, is the Ice Comet. So you just have an AoE on you, and you just get hit. So actually, when you do get the Ice Comet, this person should be bringing it into the Eternal Servant, because it does leave a tornado, as you can see there. And so if you bring it over to where the Eternal Servant is, then you can kill/cleave the tornado down, so you don't have to deal with the sort of ice that it shoots out. The final move that he does here is Call Lightning, very similar to the Overchargers in the Cragline Trials. Just make sure you dance around. Try not to, obviously, hit your friends with your own Call Lightning. So you can see that was a little bit close. We did end up getting pretty close. So we just barely missed the 30-second mark. So at the 30-second mark, when he does his second channel, because we managed to kill him before that, I'll explain what happens. So basically, each successive time he does his little channel ability, he will pin down one additional person. But at the 30-second mark, he does his second channel ability, and he will pin down one person. These pins are basically the exact same thing as you see in Ozara pins in Sanctum Ophidia. So somebody has to go over and free you using a synergy. So generally what people do, you have 7 seconds to do the interrupt. So most people will just free their friend first and then go for the interrupt with a crushing shock or a bash. So on 30 seconds, he pins down one person. At 60 seconds, he pins down 2 people. And at 90 seconds, he pins down all 3. So hence why you have exactly 90 seconds to finish the downstairs mechanic. If you are not able to finish it within 90 seconds, he will teleport up because you were not able to interrupt this channel. And he wipes the entire group. He is invincible while he's upstairs and also enraged. So that is the downstairs mechanic here. Now, because you can only send 3 people down, and portals do not respawn if somebody dies downstairs, the 3 DPS basically need to have good survivability as well as good DPS, because again, like I mentioned, the cutoff is 42k DPS, and because you have 90 seconds to do this on hard mode. So on hard mode, he has quite a bit more health. So on non-hard mode, he has 3.5 million health. On hard mode, he has about 12 million health. So with 3 DPS, you do need to be able to do 42k DPS average on each of the 3 DPS and not die, because if one person is dead by the time you get to the 60-second channel, it's going to be a wipe because you have 2 people and there's 2 pins. It's going to be a wipe that way. So if you are going to be a portal DPS, make sure you have good survivability. Moving on here, now we're going to be going over execute. So let's hop back over to the hard mode execute. So non-hard mode execute and hard mode execute, the only thing that changes is the duration of the meteors itself. There are the add phases at 80, 60, and 40. So we'll quickly look at the 60 add phase, because the 40 add phase is exactly the same. So it should be around here soon. So this is at 60%. So again, he has the ads at 80, 60, and 40%. So the 80% is the exact same ads that you see at the spawn. At the 60 and 40 are the exact same as well. But they do add in additional ads here. So he is going to fly away. And you can see we have 3 ads on the right. I'm responsible for the right side. So I have the Fury, I have the Swordboard, then I have a Fate that's back here. I'm not going to taunt the Fate, I'm only going to taunt the melee ads, and I'm going to bring them into this Fate back here. There's the two-hander and the Fate, and so all the tanks basically stack all the melee ads right here. You can see we have a Necro, so we use our Atro ulti to burn all of them down all at once, and then we basically stack whatever's left over by the remaining Fate here and kill it. While this is happening, again, we do have Flame Matron X at spawn, and he will be sweeping the arena with his Fire Breath as well. So just be careful. It is not entirely safe. It's not just simply kill the ads. You still have to deal with some Flame Matros as well as the Sweeping Breath as well. But after he does this, it's the exact same thing. Just Firestorm. Just wait for the each of the waves. So he does 3 waves here. So as you'll see in just a second here, that's the first wave, that's the second wave, and this is the third wave. And after the third wave goes down, you're just gonna hide behind the statue and go on from here. And so going into execute phase now. It'll be around. Let's see. Oh, nope, not here. Not here. Here. So this is going to be the last execute phase. So on hard mode, because you don't really need to worry about the last statue, you'll just have the tank hold the statue off to the side and just interrupt it whenever he does his channel ability. He doesn't really do mark for death very as often as execute. You'll see here that he actually doesn't do it at all during execute, but you might need to swap off depending on obviously if he does it or not. So once he hits about 35% health, that is when the execute mechanic is going to start. So it is going to be right around here. So he does his Dragon Shout. The screen's going to be turning this weird color here. And starting right now, there's going to be 3 people randomly that will get meteors. That is also include the main tank. And what you're going to want to do is you're just going to take those meteors out of group, either out to the side here. Now on hard mode, these meteors don't disappear. They're permanent. On non-hard mode, they will disappear after about, I think, 60 seconds or so. Because here we are bringing the meteors out of group, just making sure they're out of group here. And he will continue to do this all the time. He still does all the moves that he does before. So he does Thrash, he does Sweeping Breath, he does his Fire Breath, he does Marked for Death. The only addition is the meteors. And again, in hard mode, they don't disappear. So all that right side of the arena here now is pretty much all cut off from meteors because they don't disappear. On non-hard mode, they do disappear after a certain period of time. So you can see here, Molten Meteor, you have 4 seconds after it's cast on you. You need to block it. If you're not blocking it, or you're caught in a blast and you aren't blocking, you will get knocked down. You can CC break out of it. And that is pretty much it for execute. Not much has changed. Again, on hard mode, you do have that statue in the back, so the tanks will basically just interrupt it every time he does his channel thing, and just make sure his slam is not on the group there. And then just bring meteors out of group. In hard mode, they won't disappear, but on non-hard mode, they will disappear after a certain period of time here. And so that's pretty much it for the fight. So hopefully you guys found this informative. If you guys have any questions about the fight itself, please feel free to leave any questions in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Hope you guys found this informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.